Two people start the same job on the same day. Same salary, same city, same starting point. 10 years later, one of them is financially free. The other is still living paycheck to paycheck, wondering where all the money went. Same income. Completely different lives. This is not a story about luck. It is not a story about privilege or circumstance or who got the better opportunities. It is a story about decisions. Specifically, though, Wayne, the small, daily, almost invisible decisions that compound over time into completely different financial realities. And the most important thing to understand is this. The difference between these two people was never really about money. It was about mindset. It was about how they thought about money, what they believed money was for, and what they did with it when nobody was watching. Let's walk through exactly what separated them. The first difference was how they thought about income. Person A looked at their salary and saw a budget, a fixed amount to divide between bills, food, entertainment, and whatever was left over. Income was something that arrived and got spent. The cycle repeated every month, and every month ended roughly the same way. Close to zero, waiting for the next paycheck. Person B looked at the same salary and saw something completely different. They saw raw material. They understood that income is not the destination, it is the starting point. And the question was, never how do I spend this? The question was, how do I make this work for me before I spend any of it? This is the foundational mindset shift that separates people who build wealth from people who earn money their entire lives and end up with nothing to show for it. Wealthy people pay themselves first. They automate a percentage of every paycheck into savings and investments before they ever touch it for spending. And they build their lifestyle around what is left, not the other way around. Person A built their lifestyle first and tried to save what remained. There was never anything remaining. Person B built their savings first and lived on what remained. Over time, what remained was more than enough. The second difference was how they related to debt. Person A used debt to fund a lifestyle. Credit cards for things they wanted but could not afford. A car loan for something more impressive than they needed. Buy now, pay later for things that would lose value the moment they arrived. And debt has a compounding effect, just like investing does, but in the wrong direction. Every month the interest grew. Every month a larger portion of their income went to servicing what they owed rather than building what they owned. The lifestyle looked good from the outside. The financial reality underneath it was quietly deteriorating. Person B had a completely different relationship with debt. They understood the difference between debt that costs you and debt that builds you. Consumer debt, the kind that funds lifestyle, entertainment, and depreciating assets, they avoided aggressively. Strategic debt, the kind used to acquire assets that generate income or appreciate in value, they understood and used deliberately. This distinction alone is worth more than any financial course you could ever take. Not all debt is the same. The kind that funds your lifestyle is slowly making someone else wealthy at your expense. The kind that funds income-generating assets is a tool, used carefully, that can accelerate wealth building significantly. The third difference was how they spent their time outside of work. Person A came home, unwound, consumed entertainment, and repeated. Weekends were for rest and social activity. Time off was time off. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. Rest matters. But the cumulative effect over years was that Person A had no skills outside their job, no income streams outside their salary, and no financial education beyond what they had picked up accidentally. Person B spent a fraction of their non-working hours, not all of it, not even most of it, building. Reading about investing, learning about tax efficiency, developing a skill that could eventually generate income outside of their primary job, understanding how compound interest worked, and putting it to work as early as possible. And here's where the mathematics become almost impossible to argue with. If you invest consistently from your mid-20s, even modest amounts, the compound growth over 30 to 40 years produces outcomes that feel almost fictional to people who started late. Time in the market is more powerful than almost any other variable. Not timing the market, not picking the right stocks, just starting early and staying consistent. Person A started thinking about investing seriously in their late 30s. Person B started in their mid-20s. By the time they reached the same age, the gap between their financial positions was not double. It was not triple. Depending on the numbers, it was potentially 10 times larger, all from the same salary, all from starting earlier and being consistent. The fourth difference was how they responded to lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is one of the most silent and destructive forces in personal finance. It works like this. Your income increases, and almost automatically, your spending increases to match it. The apartment gets nicer, the car gets newer, the holidays get more expensive, the wardrobe expands, and despite earning more, you feel no more financially secure than you did before. Person A experienced every raise as an expansion of lifestyle. More money in meant more money out. The gap between income and expenses barely moved. Person B experienced raises differently. Every increase in income was treated as an opportunity to increase the gap between what they earned and what they spent. Not by living miserably, not by denying themselves everything, but by being intentional about which parts of their lifestyle expanded and which parts stayed the same. This intentionality is the thing that most people never develop, because lifestyle inflation feels natural. It feels like reward. It feels like you are finally enjoying the fruits of your hard work. And in moderate doses, it is. The problem is when every increase in income is entirely absorbed by an increase in spending, nothing ever actually changes. The fifth difference was their financial education. Person A trusted that working hard and earning more would eventually solve their financial problems. They never studied how money actually worked. They never understood tax efficiency, asset allocation, compound interest, or the difference between an asset and a liability. They assumed that more income would eventually lead to more security. It did not. Because the financial system is not designed to reward the people who earn the most. It is designed to reward the people who understand how it works. Person B invested in understanding money the same way they invested in any other important skill. Not obsessively, not at the expense of everything else, just consistently over time, building a framework for how money moves, grows, and compounds, and then applying that framework to every financial decision they made. The result was not that Person B got lucky, it was that Person B stopped leaving their financial future to chance. Here is what all of this comes down to. Two people, same salary, 10 years, completely different outcomes. Not because one was smarter, not because one worked harder, not because one got better opportunities, because one of them understood that wealth is not built by earning more. It is built by thinking differently about what you already earn, and making consistently better decisions with it over a long enough period of time. The salary was never the variable that mattered. The mindset was. If this video added something to your day, hit the like button and subscribe. More videos like this drop every week, and every single one is built to shift something in the way you think about money. You already have what it takes. Now you know what to do with it.